My husband's family insisted our wedding be in their language, so I wouldn't understand a word. You don't need to know, his sister laughed. My husband murmured, it's just a tradition. So I let them plan it, and on the wedding day, they heard a shocking announcement that left them speechless. I, 32 female, am American. Born and raised in Oregon. About 4 years ago, I moved to Florence, Italy to teach English. That's where I met my now ex-husband, Luca, 34 male. He was funny, polite, kind, at least in the beginning. He spoke great English, and we hit it off quickly. After a year and a half of dating, he proposed. I said yes. At first, I thought I was marrying into a big, warm Italian family. I wasn't expecting to be wrapped in open arms, but I thought they'd at least try to include me. They didn't. Luca's family is from a town in the Veneto region, about 2 hours north of Venice. They speak a dialect of Venetian that's very different from standard Italian. I understand and speak decent Italian, but Venetian? That might as well be a different language. When we started planning the wedding, I brought up the idea of having the ceremony in both English and Italian. My parents and a few close friends were flying in from the US, and I wanted them to feel included. That's when things started to go weird. Chiara, Luca's sister, interrupted me mid-sentence. She laughed and said, "Oh no. It has to be in our dialect. That's how it's always been." I asked, "Can we do a translation or at least parts in English for my family?" She looked at me and said, "You don't need to know. You'll get the general idea." I looked at Luca, expecting him to say something. He didn't. He just said, "It's just tradition. You'll understand the important parts." I felt uncomfortable. I didn't like being dismissed like that. But Luca seemed so sure it was normal, and I didn't want to start drama. I told myself it's just a wedding. One day. I regret thinking that now. As soon as the language decision was made, I was shut out of everything. Every planning meeting was in Venetian dialect. I'd sit there, smiling like a fool while everyone spoke around me. When I asked questions, they'd say, "Don't worry, we've got it under control." Chiara made a joke once, "You'll be surprised. Just show up in the dress." And they laughed. Even my name wasn't used on the invitations. Instead, they wrote, Luca e la straniera. Translation, Luca and the foreigner. My family asked me if it was a joke. I didn't have an answer. When I confronted Luca, he said, "It's just a funny nickname. My mom likes it." They're not being mean. But they were. At every turn, I was reminded that I wasn't part of the family. That I was being tolerated, not welcomed. About a month before the wedding, I noticed Luca had changed. He stopped talking about the honeymoon. He wasn't affectionate. He seemed stressed, distant, short with me. I chalked it up to nerves. I didn't want to be paranoid. But I had this gut feeling that something wasn't right. Then my best friend Cassie came to visit. She's fluent in Italian. Not the dialect, but she understands a lot. She came with me to one of the final planning meetings. We sat at the back while they went over details. Nobody paid attention to her, probably assuming she couldn't understand. Later that night, she said, "They're planning something. And it's not just the wedding. I heard Chiara say something about putting you in your place. About showing you what this family is really about." She said the tone was wrong. It wasn't about celebration, it was about control. I felt sick. Cassie and I started digging. We borrowed a program outline someone had left on a chair. It was in Venetian, but with help from a translator I hired. Yes, I had to pay someone to understand what my own wedding would be. We got it translated. It wasn't a celebration. It was a humiliation. The priest's vows included lines about how the bride comes from outside and must adapt, and how she must follow her husband's guidance to integrate into the family values. There was a whole section reserved for Chiara. A speech. In it, she was planning to say, "We never thought Luca would marry outside. But we've always been a generous family. We opened our arms to someone different, someone foreign." The word foreign kept coming up again and again. Even the music playlist had songs mocking Americans. One was a local joke song about how Americans put ketchup on pasta. It was all set up to make me look ridiculous. Like I didn't belong. I cried that night. Then I got angry. Here's what they didn't know. While they were planning my embarrassment, I still controlled the contracts. I had paid for the venue. It was in my name. I had paid the DJ deposit. I had organized a translator for my side of the family. She was supposed to whisper translate the ceremony. Instead, I asked if she could translate everything for me. She agreed. Cassie helped me record the speeches at one of the rehearsals. She pretended to be filming for Instagram while she captured audio of Chiara and the priest practicing their parts. I rented a second speaker system. I labeled it as emergency announcements and had it set to go off at a specific time during the ceremony. I had one job for the DJ, press play at exactly 4:23 p.m. I stayed calm. I smiled at the dress fittings. I thanked Chiara for the wine she sent over. Inside, I was planning to destroy them. I wore the dress they insisted I wear. An heirloom from Luca's grandmother. It was heavy and old-fashioned, but beautiful. My makeup was simple. My hands were shaking. My parents were seated at the very back. Luca's family had told the planner that guests of honor sat up front. That meant his family, not mine. The ceremony began. The priest started talking. The translator in my ear repeated everything. It was worse than I thought. He called me the outsider. Said I was being welcomed under the mercy of the family's good faith. He said I was expected to be obedient to tradition. Then came Kiara's speech. She smiled as she stood. She looked straight at me. And the translator whispered, "This is our family. We are proud, we are united. And we do not change for others." People clapped. I looked at Luca. He didn't look at me. The speakers crackled. My voice came on. Not pre-recorded. Live. "Hello everyone. I've been asked not to speak today. I've been told I don't need to understand. That it's not for me to question this family's ways. That I'm a foreigner." Silence. Dead silence. I heard what you said. About obedience. About how lucky I am to be accepted. I've heard the jokes. I've read the program. I know what this wedding really was. People started shifting in their seats. I saw Luca whispering something to his mother. I wasn't finished. "You planned this wedding in a language I couldn't understand. You planned speeches mocking me. You laughed behind my back." The second recording started. Kiara's voice. The speech rehearsal. She's clueless. She'll just stand there smiling. It'll be hilarious. People gasped. Then the priest's voice. "This will teach her how things work around here." The recording cut off. People were frozen. Luca's aunt dropped her wine glass. It shattered on the stone floor. My mother-in-law's mouth was open, her hand clutching her pearls like this was a funeral. "Kiara?" Kiara looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. The priest tried to step forward, muttering something, but I kept going. I didn't come here to be mocked. I didn't agree to marry into a joke. I'm not some clueless outsider you get to parade around and humiliate in front of your village. I turned to my family, sitting in the back row. "I see now why you were put back there. They didn't want you to see what they were really doing." My dad stood up. My mom covered her mouth, tears running down her cheeks. Then I said something I hadn't planned. I looked at Luca, still silent, still frozen. "You had a chance to stop this. You knew. You heard every word. You sat next to me at night while they planned this. And you said nothing." Still, he said nothing. That silence? It told me everything I needed to know. I was about to walk away when someone else stood up. A young woman, maybe mid-20s. Short brown hair, sharp eyes. I had seen her earlier, standing with Luca's side. She walked straight up to the altar and took the mic from my hand. "I'm sorry. I can't stay quiet." The room turned toward her. "I'm Martina, Luca's friend." She looked straight at him. Or at least I was. She turned back to the crowd. "We've been seeing each other for 6 months. Gasps. I froze. I thought I misheard. My legs felt numb. Kiara started yelling something in dialect. The priest tried to pull Martina away from the mic. She wouldn't let go. He told me he wasn't really in love. That he was doing this for his family. That she pointed at me, was just this safe option. I couldn't breathe. Luca still said nothing. His face was pale. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. So I said it for him. "You cheated." He didn't deny it. He didn't even look at me. People were whispering now. Not in dialect, just loud, confused whispers. My translator took out her earpiece and walked over to me. "They're embarrassed," she said. "They didn't know. Some of them didn't, maybe. But Kiara? She knew. She looked furious, not ashamed. She walked up to me. This was supposed to be a family event," she hissed. "You've ruined it." I looked her dead in the eye. "No, you ruined it. I just showed everyone what it really was." She slapped me. Hard. Gasps again. Someone shouted, "Enough." It was the venue manager. He came storming in from the side door. "This is over. Everyone out. Now." I could have just left. Taken my family and walked out. But I didn't. I walked back to the mic one more time. I didn't come to Italy to be part of a circus. I came here for love. Real love. And respect. And instead, I got lies, cruelty, and silence. I paused. "And I want you all to remember something. I paid for this venue. So my family will eat. We will dance. We will enjoy the night." I looked at Luca. "You're not invited." Then I turned to the DJ and gave the signal. He played the song I had picked weeks ago, Respect by Aretha Franklin. My parents clapped. Cassie grabbed my hand. My cousin stood up and started cheering. Everyone else? They just stood there, awkward and stunned. And slowly, started leaving. After they left, we stayed. My family, Cassie, A few of Luca's cousins who whispered to me, "We had no idea. We're so sorry." I believed them. We ate the food. We danced. The photographer? Still under contract. He took every photo I asked for. Not a single shot of Luca. But here's where it got worse. The next morning, I woke up to over 40 missed calls. From Luca, his mom, Chiara, a couple of unknown numbers. They wanted to talk. They wanted to fix this. They said I overreacted. They said I embarrassed the family. They said I made it personal. No apologies. No ownership. Just blame. But I wasn't done yet. I had one more thing left to do. That next morning was surreal. I sat in the hotel room, still in my wedding hair and makeup, staring at the wall. My parents were having coffee in the next room, trying not to talk too loud. Cassie was scrolling through her phone, flipping between missed calls and local news alerts. Because, yes, local news. Turns out, someone at the wedding had live-streamed the whole thing. A teenager, I think. Some cousin's kid who thought it was hilarious when I took the mic. The video had gone viral in our town. A small place, sure, but tight-knit. And nothing like this ever happened there. The caption? American bride takes down groom's entire family in 3 languages. Around noon, Cassie burst into the room. Her phone was shaking in her hand. You need to see this. She handed me the phone. It was a photo. From Facebook. Martina. The woman who exposed Luca's affair. But she wasn't alone. She was standing with Chiara. They were laughing. Holding wine glasses. Hashtag family first. The post had been uploaded just 2 days before the wedding. Captioned, "Can't wait for the big surprise." So Martina wasn't some brave truth teller. She was part of it. A plant. Martina was never supposed to confess. That part wasn't planned. But her presence, her connection to Chiara? That was real. Cassie started digging into profiles, connections, friend lists. We found photos of Martina at Luca's birthday. With his mother. With his uncle. Going back a full year. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was coordinated. Luca's family knew about her. They approved of her. And they thought they could humiliate me on my own wedding day, while his actual girlfriend stood smiling in the crowd. Suddenly, the obedience line from the priest's vows hit different. It wasn't just a tradition. It was a test. A punishment. A spectacle. I got a call later that afternoon. From the venue owner. He sounded nervous. "Signora, I was contacted by Signora Chiara. She says you broke contract rules. That you caused a disturbance." I almost laughed. "She wants your deposit withheld. She says she'll sue." Of course she would. See, what they didn't know was, I had recorded every meeting I was present at. Every time I was told, "Don't worry about it," or "You don't need to know." Cassie helped me organize the audio files. I had files where they talked about using the wedding to reclaim family honor, where they laughed about how the American wouldn't get it. I sent everything to the venue owner. 3 hours later, he called back. Refund is processed. And Signora Chiara is now blacklisted. It was a voice note. I wasn't going to listen. But I did. He sounded tired. No rage. Just flat. You didn't have to destroy everything. It wasn't personal. You just didn't understand the culture. My family has always handled things this way. Then, you embarrassed us. But maybe that's what you always wanted. To feel like the victim. No apology. No shame. Just projection. That voice note was the last time I ever heard his voice. But it wasn't the last time he tried to reach out. A few days later, Cassie showed up with her laptop open. You need to see this. She pulled up a document. It was a real estate transfer. In both our names. It had been filled out, but not signed. Guess who initiated it? Luca. Turns out, the wedding wasn't just about humiliating me. It was about control and money. Luca's family owns several properties around town. But they've had tax issues. Lots of them. Marrying a foreigner was one way to clean things up. The plan? Get me legally married. Have me co-sign a mortgage. Use my American bank account, joined with Luca's, to move money around. In other words, I was a financial tool. Not just a foreigner. A solution. A paper shield. I had already talked to my lawyer weeks earlier about protecting my assets. I never added Luca to my US accounts. I never legally finalized the bank merge. And the marriage wasn't official yet. We hadn't signed the civil paperwork. The wedding was symbolic. Because in Italy, the religious or symbolic ceremony isn't legal on its own. The legal part, the civil part, was scheduled for 3 days after the wedding. That never happened. So in the eyes of the law, I was never married. A week later, I received a formal letter. From Luca's uncle. He's a lawyer. It accused me of defamation. Of publicly embarrassing a respected family. It threatened legal action unless I issued a public apology and paid a reparative fee for the emotional and financial damage I caused. That's when I decided. If they wanted a public response, they were going to get one. By now, most of the town had heard some version of the story. The video had been reposted and subtitled in both English and Italian. People had opinions. Lots of them. Some said I overreacted. Others said I was brave. A few insisted it was just a cultural misunderstanding. But those voices got quieter when I released my own statement. Not an apology. Not a rant. Just the truth. I wrote a post. Shared it publicly on Facebook, Instagram, and yes, Reddit. I laid out everything. The recordings. The translator. The humiliating ceremony. The planned mortgage scam. The fact that I was never legally married. I even posted screenshots of Martina and Chiara and the date-stamped #FamilyFirst photo. It exploded. Again. And that's when Chiara snapped. 3 days later, I was having lunch at a quiet cafe in town. Cassie was with me. We were finally breathing again. That's when Chiara showed up. No hello. No smile. She slammed her hand on the table. You think you're some kind of hero? You're trash. You humiliated us. You made my family look like criminals. I calmly looked at her and said, I didn't make you look like anything. I just held up a mirror. People nearby started watching. One waiter froze with his tray midair. She kept going. You ruined Luca's life. He's depressed. My parents can't go to church without people whispering. Do you know what you've done? Cassie stood up. She protected herself. Chiara turned to me. Her voice dropped low. You were never going to be one of us. Never. You walk around like you're better because you speak perfect Italian and wear your little American shoes. But you'll never understand our family. I stood up then. Full height. No shaking. And I said, loud and clear, you're right. I'll never understand how a family can lie, cheat, plan a public humiliation, and still expect loyalty in return. I'll never understand how someone like you can smile while stabbing someone in the back. I don't want to understand it. Because that's not family. That's a cult. Chiara raised her hand again. Like she was going to hit me. But someone stopped her. Luca. He grabbed her wrist, pulling her back. Stop. Just stop. He looked at me. He looked broken. Pale. Sunken cheeks. Like he hadn't slept in days. I didn't want it to be like this, he said. It got out of control. I said nothing. I didn't know they planned to make speeches about you. I didn't hear the recordings until after. I thought it would be fine. He turned to Chiara. You told me you'd keep it light. That it would be respectful. That Martina was just coming as a friend. Chiara scoffed. You're blaming me now? Luca looked back at me. I was weak. I let it happen. I let everyone push you out, and I stood by and watched. His voice cracked. I was scared of losing my family. So I let them destroy us instead. There it was. Not an excuse. Not really an apology. Just the truth. I wanted to scream. I wanted to say, now you say something? After everything? But I didn't. I looked at him, and all I saw was someone I used to love. Someone who betrayed me not with one action, but by standing still while I drowned. I don't hate you, I said. But I don't trust you. And I never will again. Luca nodded, then quietly walked away. Chiara followed, still fuming. She turned one last time and hissed, you'll regret this. Cassie said, loud enough for the whole cafe to hear, no, I think you will. Chiara did try to sue. It went nowhere. The evidence I had, emails, recordings, the translator's sworn statement, was ironclad. Her own messages sunk her. The court dismissed it immediately. But the damage to their reputation? Permanent. Their family bakery lost several longtime clients. People in the village started whispering about them, not in admiration, but in shame. As for Martina, turns out she was just another pawn. She disappeared. Deleted all her social media. I heard later she had moved to Milan. Luca? He sent one final email. I'm sorry. You were right about everything. I hope someday you can forgive me. I never replied. I flew back to Oregon a month later. No big speech. No closure talk with Luca's family. Just a clean break. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. People ask me if I regret moving to Italy. No. Italy didn't fail me. He did. They did. But I don't regret standing up for myself. I don't regret turning the mic on. I don't regret refusing to shrink into the silence they tried to trap me in. Sometimes people say, you must be so strong. But I wasn't. I was terrified. But I still told the truth. And sometimes that's enough.